In addition to featuring Konig Wheels in Torque Drift 2 is some physical merch. So Scott and our team have been collaborating on the design of these Ultragram t-shirts. So it's Konig/Torque Motorsport. This is an awesome way to, just further put our partnerships out there. Shout out to Emma and Eva as well for sorting that, and Tony and the team. And to you, Scott, I think I mentioned it to you just before when we started talking about it internally. It's like, well, who's a brand that's going to be collaborative and want to jump on board? It was like, well, first person I thought was Scott. Hey guys, welcome to the Torque Motorsport channel. I'm one of your hosts today, Illy.
Hey guys, I'm Rahul, researcher at Torque Motorsport, and today joining us with Scott from Konig Wheels.
Hey, welcome Scott.
How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Oh no, pleasure. We were talking earlier about how you're a bit of a veteran in this podcast space, so we're definitely we're keen to have that, get the rub.
Yeah. I think we're throwing that veteran term around loosely. However, I'll take it. We've done a fair amount of podcasting. We've been going strong once a week for about 3 years, and so we've done a fair amount of them. But I find that while some things get easier, other things get tougher. So, but it is fun, and I like podcasting for the sense of just allowing the intimate touch that audiences get to see us as people and talking about other car topics. We don't spend a lot of time talking about wheels on the podcast. It's kind of our zone where we really tried to stay just in the car realm.
Sure.
But it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. We're in the same sort of boat. I mean, we've had a few episodes now, but we try to keep it more about motorsport in general as well, but we do like to connect it to the games, and we love having our partners like yourself on as well, and share your story, and just get everyone pumped. Konig Wheels are going to be featured in Torque Drift 2, and we're really excited to feature your parts, but also we've got some really other cool collaborations coming as well, so be on the lookout for some cool merch, everybody, and definitely, you definitely gotta like it. And see, you're saying we're throwing the veteran word a bit. I was like, I was actually gonna call you the Joe Rogan of motorsports podcast. But I don't know. What sort of gave you guys inspiration? Like, what sort of podcast channels were you guys looking at, or was it more like general content?
I don't know that when we started the podcast, it's been a few years now. I don't know that we started the podcast with any one thing in mind. I think we started the podcast more with the goal of just trying to increase the availability of us to kind of the people that we're starting to build in a community, right? I think social media has had such an interesting effect. I've been here for almost 20 years, so I think I've walked through so many different parts of this company and its marketing efforts and its efforts to kind of have contact. And, I remember when the most contact you had with somebody was either if they called on a phone or if they sent a message in through a website, right? And now you have the ability to almost talk with them in real time. And so we kind of made a commitment, a few years ago that we were to try to increase that. We started with podcasting, and we started, we have different guests on sometimes, but a lot of times it's just us talking about car-related topics or topics that are automotive-related in the news. And then we kind of branched off. We're also, for the past 2 years, we've been doing a live that we do once a week before we launch our podcast. So we can go on Instagram and YouTube, and we take, we do live Q&A, and we give people a steady time and place where they can find us and ask questions and talk to us every week in the same location. And we do it without waiver. Holidays, it doesn't matter. We do it. We don't ever cancel. So it's been pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's really awesome, and I love the dedication you guys have to the community, and especially no breaks. So Rahul, no holidays for you, dude. If we need you to do podcasts, you gotta do it.
Sleep in.
No, but that's awesome.
That's right.
I guess you touched because you've been with Konig for quite 20 years, and your role. I believe you started off more on the marketing side of things, but basically you just how did you? Well, I guess let's start from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. What was 20 years ago? And what how did you even get into Konig? Was it a person you knew, a friend of a friend, or were you like, I'm going to join this company?
Yeah, believe it or not, I sent an email in on the website.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so I had some, listen, I was always a big car guy from the time I turned 16 and had the ability to touch a car. I just couldn't leave them alone. And what happened was, it wasn't like I had any, a family that was super into cars. It just, for some reason, was something. I've always been a little bit methodical. I've always been kind of figure it out kind of thing. However, cars really made that explode. And so, I knew I was going to do something in automotive. I just didn't know what. And, at first, I made my way through college. Obviously my parents paid a fair amount, but, to supplement, that kind of living, I was, wrenching on cars, working on cars, tuning cars, building cars, doing some stuff like that. And then I kind of got into a slight collaboration era my last year or two of school, where I was actually kind of doing my own like performance shop type thing, but out of somebody else's shop. I was using a lift, a couple days a week, and vaguely started selling some parts in the early days of kind of selling parts on the internet. And it kind of went from there. I came out of school, I had a degree. I was unsuccessfully trained in marketing from a college level, and it was like, all right, but I want to do something in automotive, and I really couldn't find anything. I'm in New York, and if you know anything about the States, the mecca for automotive, especially the sport compact tuning segment, it's in California. It's in Southern California. You know what I mean? So in New York, there wasn't like all these companies, but there still was a lot of car love here. So I immediately was like, what do I do? So I ended up doing a small stint at Geico, which is a car insurance company, as an auto damage adjuster. I did it for 10 months. I almost got beat up like 4 or 5 times by these shop owners that, and I realized like, well, this isn't it,
Yeah.
So 10 months later, I was just kind of like, whatever. I knew Konig very, very well. I had Konigs on one of my cars, and I had sent a message into the website, knew they were around this area, and said, hey, I have, I have this, I love cars. I have a marketing degree. There's nothing more I would love than to come possibly join your team. If you ever have an opening, let me know. I got an email back probably 5-6 hours later, and it was from a gentleman named Rick. And it said, hey, Scott, what's your availability for next week? And I said to him, whenever you tell me you can meet, I'll be there. And it was signed at Rick at Konig. And I didn't realize at the time, but that was Rick, the president at the time and the founder of Konig. So, so I came in. This is actually pretty funny. So I came in, and we had this, great interview. I felt very good. They offered me a position the next day. They called me and said, hey, we'd love to have you come in. I started on a Monday. When I came in on Monday, I got there a little early, as you should do for any first day of work, right? And well, that's the intention, but it doesn't really happen anymore. So I get there, and and I'm greeted by the general manager, who was another former president of this company before me, Joe. And Joe takes me on a little tour, and then he sits me in my my area, and he says, look, Rick will be in a little while. Just get yourself comfortable, and you can start poking around. So I do. I'm kind of right near the sales area at the time. And the sales guys are, heading in and coming in, and it turns out they're all looking at me like I got 12 heads, and I'm like, well, not really a welcoming place. But anyhow, what ends up happening is I find out a few days later, the reason they were looking at me so oddly was apparently on Friday when they left, there was another marketing guy, and after they had left, they let him go knowing that I was coming on Monday. So they got there on Monday and they're like, who is this guy?
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like what happened to the last guy?
Yeah.
So I was here, and I was here in the Nopi days. I was here in the Super Street days. Like I caught the tail end of the Fast and Furious boom that was kind of left through through every import kid's heart. And I've been here for a long time, and there's just something about this brand that has given me such an affinity that I haven't left, and I've only grown fonder. And if you would have ever said to me that coming up this way I would have ended up as the president of this company, I would have never in a million years thought so. But it's been a crazy ride, and it's been a pleasure the whole time.
Interesting, man. That's really cool. That gets me thinking. Like even for me, growing up, and I didn't have family that were into automotive or anything. But there was a lot of influences around me here and there, and growing up, I'm like, oh, what do I want to do? I know I want to do something with automotive, but I just don't know what it is. And I think most people like us go down the line of being a mechanic or working at an auto shop and going down that line, and then I'm like, oh, where can I take this? So what's something cool? I'm working with cars or in the automotive scene, but it's also my career, and it's really hard. But what would you say? Like if you're at that point, it's like it's not just looking around trying to find something. It's more like what you did. You reach out to companies that you like, and you reach out, and something might happen. Like look at you now.
Yeah, I would love to tell you that I can offer this advice that's going to give these people some great measures into becoming into maybe their into a position. But I mean, listen, I think that if there are always going to be instances of people that kind of take the initiative or force their way through and kind of end up on the top. And I think that, the majority of us are going to stumble around until we kind of meander into kind of the spot where we end up. So, I'd say stay where your heart is, as far as at least, like for me, I was always a car person. Like I'm obsessed with cars, like really sickly obsessed, like not like a little obsessed, like over the edge obsessed, to the point where like it occupies majority of my thought process multiple times a day. So, I love cars to an unhealthy level, and I always knew that I wanted to be in automotive. So I kind of would have stumbled around in automotive, and that's kind of what happened to me a little bit. But yeah, I think if you the one thing that I always think about is, even when I'm looking at a spreadsheet here, for some reason, there's always something in the back of my head that's like, well, this is wheels, not paper or pencils or like, you know what I mean? Like, so it always makes it feel a little bit better.
Yeah. No, it's funny because like you guys both didn't grow up with people that were in the automotive, whereas I was the opposite, and I wasn't the car guy. So like my uncle used to own a mod shop, so he was really into hot rods and stuff. So in New Zealand, they had these big exhibitions and stuff, and like parades, and he would always have like these like ridiculously like fast dragsters and stuff like that. But he was like one of the first people, like when that Fast and Furious boom came, he was importing, like NOS and all this like products from the States and Japan. So I was there like, just like looking at all this stuff like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, but I have no idea what you guys are talking about. And I used to get so much crap. I still get crap about it. Like when I never thought I'd work for a company where I could kind of reconnect with this side, because I've always been a musician or into other stuff, but I've always loved cars. I've always loved, especially like I'm probably more into my favorite cars are like a Supra or like an R34 or something like that. Those are like my favorite cars. But it's just funny how it can kind of find you, and I feel like that sort of happened to us. It's like there must be something in the universe that if you really like want to know more or want to be around it, you'll find your way to it. And what's really cool is I love gaming, so the fact that we get to work on something that's gaming and cars, and we're gonna definitely touch into it too, because like for instance, when we found Rahul, a big part of it was we wanted to make sure that what we've got some amazing artists, and what we do is like it's really special. And Aaron and Billy, they can drift. We've got a few car enthusiasts, but we're still like, we need to make sure what we're doing is actually going to work on a real car in real life. And there were times where we're like, is that actually in the right position? So we went on the hunt looking for someone, and Gavin in the team, who he leads all our merch. He actually reached out to his homie Rahul, and it's just really funny because now we're armed with so much information, and we get to do stuff in real life. Like we organized a drift event recently, and it just got everyone so pumped, and even people in the team that don't know much about cars, they're now starting to want to drive in manual or learn more about it. So it's I think podcasts and stuff like that really help educate and also get people more informed as well. But you mentioned your car addiction. I was going to sort of save this for later, but what cars do you have in your collection? What's in Scott's garage at the moment?
So, all right. So I've had, for about 13 years, I've had this 350Z. It's a really clean 350Z. It's a 2006, but it's only got 24,000 miles on it.
Oh, right.
It's one of those cars. We twin turboed it. It's got some go fast goodies. The car is quick. I wouldn't say it's super fast. I've owned very fast cars. I finally got to a point in my life. So like I had a house. I bought a house in 2009. Got married in 2010. Had my first kid in 2012. My wife helped with that. And then I had my son in 2014. And so like there was a large period of time where like I had a lot of cars, and I ended up having to sell them all with this impression that I just didn't have the money to have house and kids and cars. And after I sold everything, about 10 months later, my wife had said, she's like, I hate to say this, but like, you're kind of pathetic. You should go buy a car because like, she's like, you're like, it's almost like you shake at night. Like, It's like you're going through withdrawal. So I picked up this 350Z, and only because I was always a DSM Evo guy, right? So I have everything I really owned was all-wheel drive turbo. I just wanted something different, something that I hadn't really done before. And I think 350Z, still in the import land, was like probably the closest thing I could have come to without replicating that, right? Like front-wheel drive to me is like, And then, so anyhow, so I get this 350Z, twin turbo, did a bunch of stuff to it. It's fun. I finally got a lift in my garage before the pandemic. It's like my automotive high, because I think everybody that wrenches on their car dreams of having a lift. And I think that, oh my God,
we have one here at the studio. When I got here my first day and Gav's walking around, I'm like, oh my God, we got a lift, dude. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's like the sky just opens up. So I had this 350Z, I left it there, and ever since, so now I'm at that point where like my kids are old enough, they don't, it's not a big deal. They could start taking rides in the car with me, because it's a 2-seater thing. And I've just been, for 3 years now, I've just been looking for the cars I want to build and keep. I'm finally at a point in my life where I don't have to sell my car to get another car. Like I can build a car and keep it. So now it's like I'm just looking for these long-term cars, and it's just been very tough, especially with the pandemic and rising car prices. But that's what I have for now. Totally. I really hope to have a bunch more.
We're watching one of your episodes on the Behind the Wheel podcast, and it was about when I forgot which channel, but it was really when
Speed Academy.
Yeah, it was when Speed Academy had the FDRX7 and the Supra, and it was a S15, I think.
Yep.
Is that conversation still going on? Are you still thinking of whether you're going to head to Toronto and pick up the Supra, or are you thinking about the FD still?
So I'm super friends with both the guys, Peter Chirac and Dave Pratt of Speed Academy, and known them for a long time. Been up to Toronto a few times. No, the conversation for the cars isn't really going well, because literally I put that podcast out, and the next day Pete sent me a message. He's like, "Oh, my bad, the Supra's sold," and I was like, "Oh," and then he's like, I still got the FD, and here's the thing, I like the FD. I really do like FDs. I think the idea of putting an FD into the collection there, I have one car. The collection before I get some of the other cars is a little daunting. The rotary thing is always a little rough. I have this thing with cars that actually degrade while they sit there, and I think apex seals are not necessarily where I want to start. So, Yeah, not necessarily on the FD, but like I've been looking for almost everything else 90s Japanese. So
Dude, I just want to touch back on the whole. Well, I hear it a lot growing up from people that are older than me that were into cars or are, and they're like, "Oh man, I'm looking at buying a house or I'm getting married now. We're having kids," and then like 90% of the time they're selling everything they own. And
yep.
But what do you reckon is the perfect family car? Being a car guy, considering being a car guy, I was thinking,
yeah.
I was thinking Evo wagon.
So we don't have those, but I
don't
like
have
I
those,
like where
yeah.
you're going with it.
You guys don't.
I like
yeah,
where
we
you're
have
going
a
with
lot
it.
more here.
It's man, that's tough. You know why? Because I think that there's like kids, and I know this now because like I have kids that are just old enough, right? Like I have almost an 11-year-old and almost a 9-year-old, so they're like right in that thing where they're actually little people and they talk, and most of the time that's good, but sometimes not so much. But so yeah, they're like I think it's different stages. Like if I would have had some of these cars that I had. Even if they had 4 doors, like I had a WRX at one point, like I've had these cars, I've had an Evo, like I think to some of the levels I would have modified them on, I probably would have like the noise would have been a problem at some point, but like now it wouldn't have been a problem. I think an Evo wagon's sick. I wish that maybe we had those here.
Yeah,
but
we
yeah,
had
I guess
we had those, and we'd like. I don't know if you heard of the Libero, Mitsubishi Libero.
Mm-hmm.
It's the front looks like a 123 Evo, and it's a wagon as well.
Yeah,
but just like that, there's a lot of them.
I know why you're asking this question because I'm
he's having a baby.
So I'm in the process of me and the wife are trying to have a kid and start a family and buy a house next year and all these things. So I'm in that process. Like I used to have I had a European car, so I had a Volkswagen Passat, but it was a V6. It was speedy, it was nice, it was a bit luxury because it was a European car, but not practical, too expensive. Anytime, even one little thing broke, it's gonna cost me a couple $100, and I'm gonna be crying about it. But I was at I was at the car dealership yesterday because I had to get my car service, and my wife wants to get like a Mitsubishi, like an Outlander or something, like just something like a nice SUV, but it's like a poor man's Range Rover. So we're just trying to see if there's something that we can get with a bit of swag still, if people still use that word. I don't know. I feel like I'm a bit dated with the slang. But out of all your collection, because you mentioned you had like a WRX, you had an Evo, which car was like, did you regret selling, or what was like the hardest to let go?
So I had a 2G DSM. So it was like a 97 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX, right? And the car was very fast. It's I mean, everything was done to it. It was like a drag, true to that era. I was into drag racing. I was never very any good at it, and I certainly didn't do it enough. But I built a car that cage everything. So so the car, the quickest I ever got the car to go, I believe was like I don't know. I think it was like 11.2 or 11.1 at like 144 miles an hour. So the car was fast. Not with me piloting it, but it was fast. So. Like I love that car, and it was a clean car and pristine car, and I didn't want to let it go. But somebody offered me a lot of money for that car, for what that car was back, right at the time, right before I had just bought my house, and I knew that we were like closing on the house, and it was just too much money. I'm like, I'll never get this money again, and I let it go, and. I don't know. It's hard to say whether I would do like I would have done it again if I was in the same financial position, because as much as I know it would have got better, like that money really helped at the time. So, but I wish I still had that car. I did track the car down, and it's completely it's so beyond what I left it as that it's like it almost was better for me. Like I was able to go, I don't want that back. So.
I was gonna make an inappropriate comment, but that's all right. Just with the, I guess like we'll kind of switch gears a bit, but with Konig, like, because the company's been around for a while, you've been with business for quite some time yourself. Did you, when you joined Konig, was it already like pretty popular as like, I guess, like how much has the popularity grown since you've joined the business, or I guess like what have you noticed? Because you're obviously a massive brand. You guys have done some huge collabs, and you're featuring a lot of like big builds and stuff like that. But like what have you seen in the evolution as you've been with the business?
So I think that before I got there, I think like in the late 90s, they were starting to gain some really heavy traction. And, like super streets were just starting to really come out and get popular. And some of the import books became a thing, the magazines. And Konig was one of the first advertisers in super streets. So it's interesting, like the brand, I think it had the Nopi shows and different things like that, hot import nights. So you would find that there was just a massive culture thing that meshed with automotive, and that mesh really drove Konig's popularity up. And then I think, when the Fast and Furious boom kind of went away, and I know that the movies are still out, but like there was a much larger boom that happened after that first and second movie that was just undescribable.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I would say that I kind of came in the tail end. I came in at 2005-ish, maybe beginning of 2006, somewhere around there. And so we come in, and the brand was truly an automotive staple within the sport compact tuning segment, but it was really segmented to that, right? And then, I think for the next X amount of years, the brand seemed to go through kind of like a transitioning of trying to feel its way out, what was happening. There was a lot of changes that were happening in the industry. And so I think it continued what it had, but it really built a lot of DNA. And, in 2015, I was kind of given the keys to like, hey, you can design wheels. And that kind of became something that I was like super into, because all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, I could design anything? And they were like, well, yeah, but like, make sure you don't like destroy us, like one of those things.
Yeah.
Wow.
And from that point on, I've kind of been doing all the wheel designs, and I think that we've, it's not because of the designs. I know it's a bad segue, but I think the brand has really been given a good opportunity since around that mid, 2000 teens window to really get connected back into the enthusiast market, because we all are car enthusiasts. And I think it was interesting to watch us kind of get plugged back in to where we kind of felt the most at home.
Did you? That's really cool. Did you have anything to the Ultragrams, or is that a OG room?
Yeah. No, it's not. It's a wheel that we developed here in house, and it I wish I could tell you like how the process starts. A lot of times, like especially like with the Ultragram, like the Ultragram started merely because we had a wheel called the Ultra Form, 2018, 2017, right around there. And it was a 7-spoke wheel, and I really liked it. And I even still have a set for my Z. Like I have a few sets of wheels. And I love the wheel, but for some reason it did okay, like just okay. And I always thought it looked looked really good. So I decided to take another stab at a 7-spoke. So that's why it's called the Ultragram. Because I'm not original enough to actually think of a better beginning part, and I was trying to go for that 7-spoke again, but like make it a little bit different, Yeah,
I really like it, man. I really like it. I think it must be
Thanks.
hard because a lot of people I know, or people in general, like the JDM scene or whatever, are really into older rims and rims that are really hard to find and get, and you can only buy them secondhand or get them refurbed. And then when you look into buying a brand new set of Konigs or array of other brands, I feel like it's hard to make the call or find something you really really like. And designing rims, man, that must be quite the gig. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I guess like because you mentioned it wasn't quite like like, what would you say would be the most popular? Because you've got such a huge range now. Would you say it's Ultragram, or I mean, you've got like quite a few, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I think, when it comes down, we sell a lot of different segments now. And, we do a lot of private label for other companies, and we build a lot of wheels on that level. So, this company's evolved so much that, I get that question quite a bit. People say, what's your most popular wheel? And I think it just depends on the segment, because if you looked at it from a pure numbers game, it's very different, because we sell so many wheels to, let's say, exclusive wheels to this retailer or that retailer, right? But then, the Flowform line has just so many more, enthusiast wheels. And so, from an enthusiast standpoint, I think our Flowformed offering, I think the Hypergram is still the most popular on the whole. We have an Ampliform. We have some part numbers in the Ampliform that just are absolutely incredible performers. And then, on the traditional cast side that you'll see kind of everywhere else, we have a wheel called the Oversteer that just has been doing, I mean, it's incredible. I don't even know where they all go, but it's pretty wild.
Awesome. I guess, like, now that we're sort of post-pandemic world in a way, how did COVID affect you guys? Was it sort of like an opportunity, or was it a hurdle? I mean, every business sort of reacted to it differently or dealt with it in a different way. So how did you guys find it?
The best way to describe what happened to us during COVID was bust, boom, bust. It was like 3 weeks of absolute hell. I remember when everything really hit the fan and the world locked up, and especially this area, and it was just, we're like, like, people are like, what's gonna happen? Is like the whole world gonna go out of business? Like, it just stopped. Like, the world just stopped. And then, we got back into things and realized it wasn't really that bad. We were doing okay, and it was fine, and we were doing business as usual. And then the United States government came up with a plan to help businesses by putting in the stimulus money into people's pockets, right?
Yep.
And then you gave people money that they weren't expecting, and they spent it. They looked at it as like, hey, so we did really well during that period, as did most other companies. And then, as the pandemic started to transition out, we found a normal stride again. And I don't want to say, but there is this level of, you come off a high and then, like, the floor falls out and you're like, well, what happened here? And then we have to get back to business. Yeah. And that's, and not that, like, it correlates, but I will say that I think, we've been in business for over 40 years. And I think that one of the things that really carries us through, and one of the things that becomes so responsible for this brand's legacy and longevity, is the fact that we continue to try to we continue to try to move, kind of with the tide. We realize that, look, there's a lot of companies that come out and they are hit companies for 3 to 5 years, and then they grow at such a rate that then they have real overheads and real expenses, and they got to do real business decisions and make real relationships. And that's when it's a matter of, can you make a business work? Can you build a brand that is authentic and real and is really trying to put out the best product that it possibly can, and still be able to run a successful business? So I think, Konig's done a great job of that over the last four decades. And that just was another example,
That's 40 years. That's a long time. Most businesses don't even last longer than 10 or 5 these days. It's a testament to what you guys are doing, adapting, right? Like you said, it was like that in COVID. It's especially people were getting assistance in that. And it's so crazy how people were just using it as spending money when it was to keep everyone above water. But also, it was just such a unique scenario. Like, nobody was prepared for it. Like,
sure was.
It was very testing on people. Like, even mental health. Like, people never even realize that once you're alone and you're locked up in your house, it's like, oh crap, like, what do I do now? I ended up
I remember
collecting.
that time I was looking at wheels too, man. You know, I'm like,
Yeah, actually, what were you doing stuff with your Sylvia during the pandemic? Like, what were you doing?
yeah, the very first. So back home in New Zealand, I have a S14.
Okay.
And yeah, so the pandemic started. It was the very first lockdown, and I had just got the long block back from the shop, and I would SR20 Rodnock rebuild back in the motor for like the third time. And I had the car back, had the motor back, and then lockdown happened, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got something to do, so I put it all back together, and
Yep.
the sad thing was you couldn't drive, you couldn't go anywhere, so I couldn't test that, I couldn't take it down the road, or be real risky, so that was pretty.
You couldn't drive at all?
No, you could drive to the grocery store in your area and back. You could go for a walk to the park. That was it. That was literally
New Zealand was very, very strict. So was Melbourne, actually.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So our state of Victoria was probably ridiculed for most of it by all the other states. But I feel like nobody really knew what to do anyway. So yeah, we were just locked in. Like it was almost like probably almost a year and a half straight of just being locked inside, going crazy. But back home in New Zealand, there's the car scene. Everyone's a bit more loose though. They'll just start their own little thing in their local street or something. So I'm surprised you guys didn't have some sort of little burnout comps or anything down the road. Or
there was this thing they were doing where like it was like a driveway burnout comp, and you'd post it on Facebook because you can't leave the house. So that was a little thing going around.
I just I got to tell you, like, I mean, it was, don't get me wrong. It was a little tougher in the sense that we didn't get that extreme at all. But I mean, everywhere you went, you basically had to wrap Saran wrap around your face so that you could, or hold your breath for a really long time so you could, actually get to a store or something. But we didn't have that. I mean, I thought the biggest part, and I mean, minus all the like actual disease and death, like because that's pretty real and pretty unbelievable. But once for I worked from the office. There wasn't really a lot of people here. I would come in, there wasn't anybody here. So I found it to be better. I worked at home for like 3 weeks, and I just wanted to jump out the window. I thought I was gonna love it, and then I realized that like if I'm home, so is everybody else, right? So it just couldn't get anything done. So I enjoyed coming back to the office, but there was a lot of work. There was a lot of life balance that all of a sudden we had back, and the ability, because it wasn't just you that stopped. Like you get to the end of your day, and like the whole world basically was not there. So I got to do a lot of car stuff. I got to do a lot of building stuff. I got to really we were allowed to go to other people's houses. So those are where a lot of fabrication projects came in, or people really took their stuff apart thinking they'd have a little bit to play with. But man, I don't know if I could have taken the you can't leave your house. I certainly don't think I should do a burnout in my driveway.
I guess like like COVID aside, you've got like other types of products as well. I think we were looking at like the hub rings, and like what's the sort of the process that goes into like coming up with like other types of categories, and also like what sort of testing do you guys have to do to ensure that quality? Obviously 40 years you guys have high quality products and respected. So like, and was that affected, I guess, during the pandemic, linking that, like did the staff have any issues with production or anything like that?
So, I mean, as far as accessories go, we produce accessories strictly on a service avoid nature, right? Like we developed hub rings because, 1,000 times a day we get a phone call and people are like, well, which hub rings do I get? Which hub rings do I get? Which hub rings do I get? So we were like, all right, this is ridiculous. We'll just build some. I mean, there's, we'll make hub rings. And then it was, the big thing happened with wheel ceramic coating kits. And so we worked with G-Technic and we put together a wheel ceramic coating kit. Which one do I use? Which one do you use? Okay. There's obviously the merch or whatever that ends up on the website, but we don't do a ton of accessories. As far as, wheels go in wheels testing, there's just so much that goes into wheel testing, so much more than I think people ever give it kind of any thought of. I mean, we do testing at multiple stages. We do a lot of computer FEA testing and FEM testing, and that's it stands for finite element analysis. And essentially, what that is being able to replicate load and stress under different situations when you get to a certain point in different parts of the design. So we can represent, different impacts that happen. We can, see how the energy transmits through the wheel. We can see if there's going to be a weak point, depending on if it's hit, laterally or another direction. So there's a lot of computer testing that goes into each wheel before we ever even get into actual production. But once we feel, and the FEA and the FEM has really gotten to a point where it's like 99% accurate, like really good. So we get to that point, then wheels are produced, and then once they're produced, we do a ton of physical tests to the wheels. And then as the wheels are produced for years and years and years, I mean, we don't ever stop. Wheels are always constantly pulled off the line or pulled out of every batch, and they go through a level of testing, to make sure that nothing has went wrong or degraded. And that's part of the QC process, which is separate from the actual physical testing. But yeah, wheels are tested all the time. I mean, we take the safety extremely seriously. And, obviously we put that as priority number one. I mean, not only because you can get ever-loving sued for everything you have, but also because we're trying to make the best product we possibly can. So you would never put anything out, we would never sacrifice a little bit of weight just to, make a product that was inferior, right? So there's a lot of that testing. It's just one of those things. I think that, we're very used to it, and I think that, there's more that goes into it, but, I won't bore you with it.
Nah, but it's a lot to be said though, right? Just the safety, the whole process and all that. It's
yeah.
Yeah. I guess what's and only if you can spill some of the beans, but is there anything new in the horizon? Any new wheel or innovations that you guys are going to be delivering soon?
There's so much new. We have been spending so much time over the past year developing products. I know we have wheels that we have developed and probably won't ever make it out this year. Maybe they'll make it out the end of 24, but we have some stuff coming out at the end of this year that I'm pretty proud of. We have a new flow form wheel that's going to be just kind of a different direction from us, just to try to test some of the waters based off of some of the feedback we've had. We have a forged line of wheels that we have been talking about for over a year that I have delayed. And for anybody watching that actually has been following us along and is mad at us, I take full responsibility for it. So I'm really happy to finally get that out. And I think people are going to be super stoked with it. It's something that's been really cool. We got some other things coming out probably right around SEMA time this year. Awesome. That I'm pretty excited to showcase. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of stuff coming out, and I'm really pumped to be able to kind of show it to everybody.
Yeah. Oh well, we're pumped to see it as well, and get them in the game for people to play.
Yeah, exactly, man. Totally. Was it the first Fast and Furious? Jesse's
yeah.
Had Koenigs on there.
We did more than a few cars in the first 3 movies. Then we kind of made a conscious decision to just stop because it got to a point where if for the first movie it was very different. Remember that movie? That movie wasn't the Fast and the Furious. That movie originally was called Redline, and it had no budget and nobody that had any names. These people weren't famous. There was no Vin Diesel then. There was no, and so we went into this movie a little bit blind, but also the cars were being sourced from the car community. So that car, that Jetta that is, I believe is still owned by Frankie Muniz, he's a star. Malcolm in the Middle, right. So Yeah, he's a really big car enthusiast. But the person that owned that car at the time, his name was Scotty Sentra, and he was with a company called Wings West, and they were a body kit company, very predominant body kit company during that time. So that whole car was, a car that they were kind of using and showcasing, and they were like, hey, we need some cars, and Craig Lieberman was involved in doing some of this stuff. So he got all these cars there. So we had some cars in that movie. Some of them showed on screen, some of them didn't. Then that kept happening. So then in the second Fast and the Furious, the Eclipse, the purple one, which has got to be one of the world's most ugliest cars, but it
We didn't get those.
we were on. Yeah, we were on that car as well, and then in the third one, you give so much product to a lot of these things because they don't just build one car. Like when they build a hero, there's a hero car that they build, and that's like the car they won't destroy.
Yeah.
And then there's like 10 other ones or 8 other ones that they're gonna just use for every single shot, and they're just gonna launch these cars, and half of them are real, half of them are not, but you still got to supply product for it. So you end up getting, not for the first movie and not too much for the second movie, but like the third movie, we put a lot of product onto a lot of different cars, and they don't really tell you where they're going, how they're going to go, if they're going to make it. So in the third movie, I remember that there was, S15s that were in an apartment. Anyhow, so that was on our wheel, and they sent pictures from set where the cars were basically getting run over by trains and stuff, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, there's your wheels, and I'm like, oh, awesome, like that's gonna be real easy to see. So we got to a point where we're just like, all right, you know what? It's not that serious. Like let's just get back to business. But but a lot of memories and a lot of great opportunities that happened, not just from a business standpoint, but just some of the relationships that we had, and pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, that first one, you can't beat the first Fast and Furious. I was talking to a friend, and he's like, I haven't even seen it. I'm like, which planet have you been on? That, like, everybody, that movie, yeah. I remember sneaking out of school with my friends, and for some reason we snuck in KFC into the movie theater and we were watching it. We were just
that makes sense,
kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, my friend had this really beat up Integra, and we all somehow fit in the car. We all squashed it, and we were all just trying to be cool, like in the movie. But that movie changed people's lives. I really feel it did. The second one, that's the one where Brian is like running away and hiding in Miami, right? And that's with
and
Tyrese.
That's with Ludacris. That's the first Ludacris Tyrese.
Yeah.
You know what the funniest part about, like, because you were just talking about piling into that Integra and like going to see the movie. The funniest part was, like, I would imagine that this had to be the same as when Rocky came out for like a generation under, right? Everybody comes out and they have muscles, right? Like they're gonna fight each other right outside the movie theater, and like I feel like I remember going to see Fast and the Furious, and like as soon as we came out, it was like every car in the parking lot was doing a burnout and trying to race out of the. There was like accidents happening. People are driving over like dividers and medians just to try to, because they're like so amped up, and so that's what the Fast and the Furious was for us. But anyhow, sorry, I digress.
That's all right.
Back to the stove.
Oh, it's just funny with that whole series now where it's gone to now. But when you say the third one, do you mean Tokyo Drift or do you mean the one after that? Because there's so many, I don't even remember now. Like,
right? No, I don't think it was Tokyo Drift. I think the next one, maybe it was 4, but the next one was the one that was based back in LA for a portion of it.
That was a good one. That was probably the last good one, and then it just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I still watch them though. When they come out.
It's fun. It's more fun just to see what cars they're going to drive now. But like it's only like 20% of the movie, and then it's them flying in space and driving off a building in Dubai or something, and
that happens. You got to be careful. Yeah, right. You never want to accidentally take a couple $1 million car and drive it off of a building. It's embarrassing.
I like the animation, like the ones they do, like College Humor or something. And there was like one that's just like this would actually happen and you just go straight down rather than
Yeah.
But you guys have done so many other collaborations, right? Like you've been featured on like Hot Wheels cars and stuff like that. Like how do these sort of things come about? Is it all like, do they reach out to you, or is it something that you kind of might be at a SEMA show or something and you kind of bump into each other? Like how does that, even like with the Fast and Furious thing?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we've had a bunch of toys and Hot Wheels and different kind of random collabs like that. And no, we never chased after any of it. I think that even all the video games, you know, like, I mean, not to talk about anybody, whatever, but like there's a history before the good stuff came, right?
Yep.
Right? There's a
There you
history
go.
before the good
Love
stuff
that.
came. And what happened was, even in those early days, it seemed that, we always talk about the automotive industry being just so small, and I don't think people really understand that. But once you're on like kind of this side of the industry, you start to realize like it really is crazy small. And so what happens is people that were, they're with this company one day, which is automotive, whatever, and you're friendly with them because this is, what the people you speak to. All of a sudden now they're with Mattel, or they're with Hot Wheels, or this person goes over from here, or this person moves into here, or there were a few times, like there was a company that was producing a lot of toys at the time for like, Toys R Us's and the different stuff. And they did approach us kind of like, hey, like, we see you on, so, and I'm sure it's because, you just get seen in different things. Sure. And they're like, we love to use your wheel designs and put them onto some cars, put them on some toys and make them into this. And I think for us, we've kind of always had that feeling of like, well, that's cool. Like,
Why not?
Like, why not? Like, and so we're like, you could send us a box of those toys. Like, I mean, like, it's stupid, but
no, fair enough.
But we're like, oh, we'll take can we have a box of toys? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so I don't know. We've never really kind of gone the distance of like trying, like being the company that's like, give us a royalty on that. It's just kind of always been like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's cool. So, yeah.
I love that. I guess like the thing at the end of the day, and one thing I've learned, like I worked in different industries, and I worked in the sports industry before this, and it was just so huge. It was just massive. But one thing I noticed is like the automotive industry, it is like that. It's like a big small industry because there's so many huge brands out there, and US, Japan, Europe, obviously, but it still is very well connected to each other, and that's what I've learned just in my time so far with the business, and just like getting to know people. And you start talking to one brand and they'll be like, oh, then someone will reach out to me and say, hey, you guys are gonna get these guys, we'd love to be in the game. And I love the enthusiasm for, I feel like it's because it's a hobbyist type of sport as well, or like everybody at the end of the day at the core, it's just guys with their toys and girls with their toys, just having fun. And that's what it really should be about, right? And I think that the way that you guys approach it is exactly the way that we approach things too, is at the core of it, we're just trying to make something fun that people are going to enjoy and that we're going to enjoy as well. And, if we all get some cool freebies along the way, that's always fun, right? Rahul, it's funny because, New Zealand's sort of like a big small town, and I'm always like, what do your mates think of you doing all this stuff? Like, coming from a mechanic to working for a gaming company and talking to guys like Scott, it's pretty awesome.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, it is crazy. It's still surreal. It feels surreal being here, literally sitting in front of you, talking to Scott, talking Konig Wheels. That's crazy for me.
Wow. I appreciate that, but I don't know if it's like that, but I appreciate like, the compliment.
But that's the thing is like, you would think that it would be hard to talk to a guy like you, or like someone in your position, or like, people in this industry. But actually, it's more like people are pretty cool, pretty chill. They're always keen to just, like, and I think that's where the community feel with car culture, and that is really awesome because everyone sort of looks at it. If you're a jerk, everyone's gonna know you're a jerk. So it's pretty. It's like it's one of those things. And like I guess like. With the car culture itself, like, did you, growing up, were you always going to like meets and going to events and stuff like that, like to stay immersed? And, like, has that always sort of been your way to keep ahead of the trends in that?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I think when I was just starting here, when I was just doing some marketing stuff and getting my feet wet, I was immersed in car culture, at least in this area. Like I thought I knew everything about cars, right? So like that was cool, but you find out that different regions and different segments and people like different things, and you don't realize how much tastes and preferences can be altered. So yeah, I mean, I think there's this realm of, you start out very local and then end up into doing some really big things and meeting from people around the country. And I think that was one of the things that really got me so kind of I don't know what the right word is, but like so kind of founded in this brand, was as I traveled around the country, going to different shows or whatever it may be, I got to meet people from all over the world, and they all knew about our brand. And it was, for me, like I still get pumped. Like I travel a lot by myself now, just because I'm going to different meetings, and I'll be in the car or rental car, and I still get pumped by seeing our wheels pull up next to me. You know what I mean? Like it's awesome. A weird feeling of knowing you designed something. It's a weird feeling of like knowing that that you designed something, or you guys worked on something, and then all of a sudden it's like somebody else bought it. They don't know who you are. They don't know where you don't know where they got, but it's just there, like right next to you on a car. Somebody spent their hard-earned money to buy something that like help sketch up and take from a drawing to something else. And it's just wild. Like, you know what I mean? Just to think where everything comes from and how it ends up onto everybody's cars.
Yeah. Well, not to be corny, but it's like seeing art. It's your own, people, it's on their cars, but it's
like making music and people listen to your music.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, right. It's probably exactly like that.
And it's like with you're at all these car shows, and you guys work with a lot of like pro drivers and stuff. Who are some of the like notable partners and drift drivers or any type of drivers or teams that you work with that you really like, or was there anyone as well that you were sort of like, oh wow, I'm actually working with this guy like that?
I'm not really an easily starstruck dude. So I've kind of gotten to a point where I've had a lot of opportunity to meet a lot of celebrities and different things, because, the automotive industry really clashes hard with lifestyle. And when it does that, you find a lot of people, whether it be, the ability to meet like guys like Paul Walker, when he was around, and some of these other cast members, whether it's T-Pain, he's always out drifting. You see him rolling around, and so just but it's this great feeling of watching these guys and watching these girls kind of come into a situation where that they're just enthusiastic about cars like you are. So yeah, I mean, drivers, we have so many drivers and so many programs that we're so grateful to be part of. I think we have 6 Formula D Pro drivers this year, and I think we have almost 10 pro spec teams that are running our wheels.
Wow, 10
and then
teams.
Yeah. So we have that's in pro spec. So we have like 16 FD teams that are running our stuff. And then in addition to that, we do a lot of stuff with Grid Life, and we do a lot of stuff with a lot of the road race drivers, and again, I think what really pushes this further and further is just the fact that these are car people through and through.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess we'll sort of we'll kind of come back to you. I guess with the what's the core aim now for you? Like what's your personal goals now? You've been at the front with leading the team at Konig. What's something that's sort of inspiring you, or a huge long-term goal for you that's motivating you?
I think so. I was named president in at the end of 2021, and I think that one of the things that has always really been kind of in my brain is just how much potential this company really has. You know, like I look around and and I have the opportunity to meet other companies, and it's some companies are great, and we have a lot of we all must all the wheel companies must be competitors, but while we're also there's a lot of camaraderie, and some of these companies are great companies with great people and car enthusiasts, and it feels right. And then there's some other companies that, it almost hurts to watch some people support because you know that it's smoke and mirrors. So I think one of the major things for me has just been like, we are car enthusiasts. We have this opportunity. We have a great parent company behind us. We are the factory because we are owned by the factory. So we get some incredible resources that a lot of, importers or other brands don't have. And the potential of what we can do and what this brand can do with having that combination is just, it's wild. I mean, whoever says like maybe we'll branch out from just doing wheels. Maybe there'll be another segment. Maybe there will be other things. Like there's just so much potential here because I think when you're a car person and you just want to build cool car things, that there's really a lot more ground we can cover. So I think there's that, but like I think that's such a high level thought. I wouldn't say we're getting there next week, so I wouldn't worry about it.
No, but like I guess you could say even with like our collaboration and being on the game, it's a new medium that is going to connect with a younger demographic too. I think one of the things I think you and I spoke about when we first met was how your son and your kids are always playing games, and like all my nephews and nieces, like they be like, it's crazy because I used to fancy myself a pretty good gamer, and I started playing games since I was 5. But these kids, like, they're so advanced, and I just know, like, even like the little things I'll show them of Torque Drift 1 and that, they'll be like, oh yeah, I could do that. I'm sure you can. And they figure it out quicker than I did. And, but yeah, there's so many opportunities in the industry, and I guess with tech as well. So yeah, like definitely we're excited to see what's on the horizon for you guys as well. Kind of an interesting question, but I guess first one is what's the most unexpected or surprising place you've seen a car with Konig Wheels, for instance? Like, is it been kind of like a odd scenario that you just would not expect it?
Yeah, I don't know if I feel like now I've kind of gotten comfortable knowing that our stuff is all over the world, but I think sometimes you get pictures, and I say pictures because I think the things that have amazed me the most were places that I never thought, like, somewhere like in Kenya, getting a picture of somebody and you're like, where are you? You're in Kenya. Like,
yeah, wow.
Like, how did they even get, I don't even know we have a Kenyan dealer. Like, who, like, I didn't even know they had cars like that. So there's like that. Like I was, I went, my wife, after years and years, we finally took a small vacation. We went to Antigua, which is a little island, kind of down there, but, closer to South America, and I was just walking through one of their markets, and lo and behold, there were some wheels that were on somebody's Honda Fit, and so I actually took a picture of it and put it on my Instagram page. I was like, look, I'm out here in Antigua, and I just happened to be walking by a set of hypergrams here. But the funniest part was my wife said to me, so I have been struggling to get you to take a picture with me pretty much the whole vacation, but you have no problem like leaning up next to somebody's car and taking a picture with the wheels. And I'm like, well, it's different. And she's like,
okay, so when you say you're addicted to cars, this is what you mean. It's to the point where
it's unhealthy. I mean, it's not good. but yeah, I get super happy with cars. Everybody else in my life will tell you that for the most part, the rest of my life, I'm pretty monotoned. But cars, they make me super happy. I don't know why, but they just do. Even when I want to throw myself off a bridge because I can't fix something, or something is just too, like I can't figure it out. Like I just won't let it beat me. It stinks, but I always love doing it for some reason. So
that's awesome, man. Like I think everybody needs that, you know, to be honest. Like mine was always music, then games, then a little bit of martial arts, and then I realized I couldn't be an MMA fighter. It's too hard. But now I really want to get into cars, like even more. Like I don't know. My wife's like, "Is this what you call a midlife crisis?" I'm like, "I'm not that old." Like so it's just it's a moment of rediscovery. And plus, I've got plenty of mates that can help me out. All right, so another cool collaboration, in addition to featuring Konig Wheels in Torque Drift 2, is some physical merch. So Scott and our team have been collaborating on the design of these Ultragram t-shirts. So it's Konig/Torque Motorsport. This is an awesome way to, you know, just further, you know, put our partnerships out there. Shout out to Emma and Eva as well for sorting that, and Tony and the team. It's and to you, Scott. You know, like I think I mentioned it to you just before. It's when we started talking about it internally, it's like, well, who's a brand that's gonna, you know, be collaborative and want to jump on board? It was like, well, first person I thought it was Scott. You know, and we're definitely gonna be reaching out to more, but it's an awesome place to start. We can't wait to put these out. So look out for those. We're going to be promoting them. And probably by the time this podcast is out, they're going to be out. So you can purchase that on our store. And more to come. So we're really excited to release this merch and obviously the products in the game. So we're near the end of the podcast, but just a few other things. Like other than, you know, we've asked you about car projects, and it sounds like that hunt is pending. But I guess we might have to do a follow up and conversation once you've got either the Supra or, you know,
something.
But you know, whichever car you do end up with. But is there anything on the horizon? Like any cool upcoming events? You mentioned SEMA. Obviously, that's there'll be a huge Koenig, I guess, booth there. But is there any other cool events you'd like to plug?
We're doing some different events here and there. I know the guys, they have Fuel Fest coming up here on the East Coast. That's one of Cody Walker's events. So, right. So we're going down there, and I know there's going to be some pretty cool stuff. I know that we have this whole thing that we've been working with them on about doing a live giveaway during the event. So, and I think one of the crew, I don't know if it's going to be Cody himself, but somebody's going to draw the wheel out, so it's not like us pulling tickets. So there's that. And then right after that, you know, we're really, you know, going into SEMA mode pretty hard. We downsized a little bit this year. I just think, you know, you know, you've seen kind of that happen by a lot of companies. I just don't necessarily think that we need, you know, we used to put up these elaborate booths and displays, but you know, the technology has gotten so good that you see most of your customers and things, you know, way before you ever get even to the shows. So the environment of the show has just changed. But yeah, we're going to be at SEMA. We got some cool things going on. We have some YouTube, you know, I hate using the word YouTube influencers. There are other car people that happen to have big YouTube channels. That's right. They'll be there doing some cool things. And you know, we're just gonna be showing off some new product, and we're super pumped to do it.
Yeah, well, Fuel Fest. I'd love to go and check it out. They do it because that's all linked to Paul Walker's foundation and stuff as well, right?
I believe a good portion of it is, yeah.
So it's for a good cause. It's awesome show. There's gonna be, I imagine, quite a few of the actual Fast and Furious crew out there as well, and just a lot of cool brands and cars. You know, there's gonna be some sick builds.
All right, the closing question: what was your first car? What's your forever car? And what's your favorite car?
First car I had was a Toyota Camry. Not super thrilled about that. I was forced into that. Let's see, practical, right? You should have seen what I did to it. Let's see. For forever car, I don't know. I don't know that I have a lot of cars. I like I said, I plan to buy and keep now. Every time I build, I'm not going to get rid of cars now. I'm going to keep them. So I don't know. Like, I think most any project I start now will be a forever car. However, I still don't feel like I hit my stride with finding all the stuff I really want. So there's that. But in the future, I'm definitely keep my 350Z. I definitely want an R33. I definitely want an R35. Right. People will notice I skipped R34 just because they're a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're ever going to be obtainable for me. So I'm just skipping right over it. Not even going to put it in my thought process. I think Toyota Supra would be cool. Although I'll be honest with you, the older they get and the harder it gets to get parts for them, the more I'm actually becoming okay with not owning one. And then, there's just a bunch of like little things. I love MR2s. I love, so many of the Japanese 90s cars that I think any acquisition there would probably be a forever car. And then what was the last one? Because I talked too long.
Last one was just favorite car, but
Yeah. Oh, I guess I would add in hardtop
So
or
many.
A convertible. Because I remember you mentioning that you kind of like having the top down on cars as well. So.
Actually, I hate convertibles.
Yeah?
I hate convertibles. I think that they're cool. Like if you rent one and you get to give it back. I'm sure that there's some really cool exotics that happen to be convertible, but like there's just nothing that makes me feel like a man driving around in a convertible. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that I've been trained to cut the AC out of my cars and just sweat, and that's why I can't have a convertible. But like there is something that's very not comfortable with me, like just
dude,
getting into a sports car, putting the top down.
Yeah, I feel like I sort of assumed everyone just hated on convertibles in general, unless it is exotic
corny out there.
or if you're in for like
Yeah.
one that you're just renting out.
I don't know.
Favorite car is a really hard question.
What's your favorite car?
My favorite car?
Yeah.
I think it'll be like I'd say a 240Z, or on par with that would be like a KP60 Starlet, old bug-eye Starlet.
Well, that's interesting though. But so you would go like 240Z. Do you like a little bit of the old school?
Yeah, man, totally. Yeah. If I have a picture of a KP6 me in the Burrows build back in New Zealand, we'll check it up. But that we put a 4A GE motor in it out of a front drive Corolla.
Yep.
Had like Hilux differential and that was really cool. I really love old school cars.
I think that's a thing back home though, because I didn't realize the magnitude of what I was sitting in, but me being a noob. But my cousin had a Truno. He had basically rebuilt the A86, but his was a red one. But we were driving around, and people make a big deal. I'm like, what's the big deal? And it's like, you're driving me crazy. So, and then I watched Whole of Initial D, and then I realized, oh, I see. It's a really cool car. And people, because a lot of my cousins were more into newer cars, so they were like, it's cool, but what about power? Like,
right.
We're more into something more powerful than that. So.
I just don't feel comfortable with that stuff. Like, I'm not the guy that goes out and buys a new BMW, like even an M3, M4. I think they're cool cars, but like, even with like a BMW, if you're gonna give me a BMW, like, I don't want a brand new one. I want an E46 M3. You know what I mean? Like, that's just get rid of the SMG, so I don't have to like actually use something that's gonna blow up, and then I'm good. So I don't know. I just there's a lot of people that go out, they buy cars, they want to just chip them to put an exhaust on it and they feel good, and I'm not comfortable in like owning one of these cars unless it is absolutely nauseating to drive and my wife hates it.
100% agree with that.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, was there anything else you wanted us to touch on before we close it off?
No, listen, I appreciate you guys having me, and I'll tell you what else. I appreciate the opportunity that you guys have provided the community to kind of get that next level of gaming / technology / NFT kind of into into this sport. I think automotive is one of the most behind the 8-ball industries when you start looking at things, and just watching and having the ability to kind of partner up with a brand like you that's so forward thinking and is kind of executing it and not just talking about it has been super exciting. So we appreciate the opportunity to kind of team up with you as well.
Oh no, we're very thankful, very humbled by that too. And yeah, guys, look, be on the lookout. We've got some early previews of Torque Drift 2 coming out. We're gonna have products from Konig and other great brands that you can customize your cars with. You can wish list them, and once they're ready to become NFTs, go out there and get them, because you don't want to miss out. And this is a huge opportunity. Like Scott said, it's something innovative. We're trying to push the envelope and really connect the motorsport scene to a more, a new way of connecting with car culture and learning about stuff, and also the community, just giving them a platform to safe space to meet up. And yeah, this is if no matter where you are, people all over the world are going to be able to play this game. So definitely keep yourself posted on that. We're definitely going to be putting updates out. But again, thank you, Scott. Thanks for your time, dude. We really loved it. There's some awesome stories. Thank you to the listeners for tuning in and your support. And guys, check out Scott's and Konig's website. They've got their own podcast, Behind the Wheel, and you guys have got a bunch of content, so it's really awesome. And I have no doubt we're going to collaborate again on more content as well. We've got the merch coming out, so make sure you check out their website, all of their links, and subscribe and rate and review, and send us some comments. And if you got any feedback, we'd love to hear it too. So thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone. I'm Ellie, Rahul. Catch ya.
Take care.
Yep.